Thank you, Ashley. We'll call the meeting to order. It is at 9 o'clock. Welcome, everybody, this morning. And before we begin, can we please rise and we'll take a moment of reflection to thank. Amen. Thank you. And Ms. Noble, can you give us an update on anybody that's going to join us online or how they can join us?
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, before I begin,
Turn my own on. It should be noted for members of the public that this meeting is taking place across two meeting platforms, both on Zoom as well as being live streamed on YouTube. Public participation, if any, must be done through Zoom and cannot be done through YouTube at this time.
Thank you for that shortened version there, Ashley. Ask council, is there any declaration of pecuniary interest or general nature thereof from anyone? Seeing none, it can be declared if it does arise at any time. Number 4 on the agenda, we do not have any delegations this morning. And there are no public meetings this morning. That brings us down to number 6 is correspondence comment period. Excuse me. And this allows for anybody that is in the audience or online that would like to speak to anything that's on the agenda. We have allotted 2 minutes per person. And just as a little timing aspect, so people know about where they are, I'm not going to be just totally on the 2 minute, but our clerk has a new device to be able to show you what the 2 minutes would be like. So open it up. Is there anyone that has a comment on today's agenda? Go ahead, Mr. Dick. Yes, if you can take the podium and just give your name for the record, please. It'll be the gray button there. That's the one.
My name is Matthew Dick. Basically, I'm just concerned about approving whatever it is. I mean, I don't totally understand the politics of all this. So, but I mean, it feels not correct to be approving it without knowing exactly what's going to be done with the development, because there are a number of situations where they like frontages and rearages and things like that. Also, one thing that I noted was the fence along the south side of the condominium development. On one hand, they're saying that they're moving or they're shortening or they want to shorten the rear, but they to make the frontages larger, but they're not recommending a fence or anything like that because they're going to be less than the setbacks, the normal setbacks. So yeah, like as far as I'm concerned, it needs to be further along before you can say, yeah, it's a done deal. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matt. Anyone else? Is there anybody online, Ashley? Okay. There's no one else who comments. And we'll go down to number 7 on finished business. Not aware of any adoption of the minutes. We have the minutes from the September 3rd council meeting. Do I have a mover and a seconder for that? Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchison, seconded by Councillor Townsend. Thank you, Tom, Doug. Any comments, errors, or omissions on those? Call the question then. All those in favor? I declare that carried. Okay. Committee and board reports. I think we have one set of minutes from the Saugeen Municipal Airport. August 21st meeting to receive. We have a motion for that. Moved by Councillor Forrester, seconded by Councillor Noon. Thank you, Scott. Joyce. Any comments on those minutes? Councillor Shea. Jeff?
Thank you. Good morning. So I note that, if I'm not mistaken, the proceedings reviewed in these minutes took place without actually having quorum. And I just wonder what, as a member, as a standing board member, as we are, how we would react to a situation like that.
That would be a procedural question.
Mm-hmm.
And the person best to answer procedure with not having quorum, it would be our clerk. Legislative Affairs, I think is that director? Jamie.
Thank you. And through Mayor Eccles. So what I would suggest, there's a couple of options. One, if quorum is not able to be achieved, then the meeting should not take place. If there's a concern from anyone, be it a member of the public or a member of the commission or the board who is concerned with that, they can reach out to the ombudsman to investigate that should they wish. But in the absence of quorum, a meeting should not take place.
So as we are one of the 3 members, there are 3 members of the board there. And we collectively are 1. Do we collectively want to take any action? I would suggest that we should send a letter to the chair of the commission asking for an explanation of why this occurred. And I would so move if that was appropriate.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles, and through you to Councillor Shea. I was not in attendance at this meeting, obviously, but I had another meeting I had to attend. However, we are meeting tomorrow morning, so I would be more than happy to speak to this on tomorrow morning's agenda. I would meet at 9, and I can get the information back, filter back through the clerk for distribution, unless you want to go the other way. But again, I can't speak to it because it was not there, so I don't understand their action. But tomorrow morning is a meeting, and I can find out how it took place and what happened. Thank you.
That would be fine with me. Thank you.
We're not approving these minutes. We're just receiving them from outside boards. We have no concern with or no authority to approve them, but to receive them as they come forward. As you've said, we have membership on that with a number of outside ones. So this motion isn't to approve or anything of that nature. It's to receive it as basically correspondence. With that said, any other questions? We'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. To your question, Councillor Shea, Um, do you want to put forward a motion in that, or the deputy mayor's explanation? Good.
I'm happy to have the deputy mayor, our representative on the commission, report back on his findings. If at that point there's any contention, we might want to raise it more formally, but I think we can do it for the time being.
Okay, all right. I think that's a good avenue to go. Correspondence, number 10. We have one correspondence here for direction. Coalition for Better Childcare, re 2024 Annual Childcare Worker and ECE Appreciation Day. How does council want to deal with that proclamation request? Does somebody want to put forward a motion to endorse that proclamation? Councillor Hutchison, move. Okay, seconder is Councillor Noon. I think it is something that we have done in the past, Jamie. You got a motion there to prepare?
I do, and through you, Mayor Eccles, I have that in consideration of correspondence received from QP Ontario respecting a request to proclaim October 24th, 2024 as Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day. Council proclaims October 24th, 2024 as Child Care Worker and Early Childhood Educator Appreciation Day.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions on the motion? Joyce, Councillor Net.
Just for confirmation through staff, this proclamation will be identified then on our outside information board.
Jamie, or? Shouldn't? Go ahead, Jamie.
Through you, Mayor Eccles, yes, that's something that we can post on our digital sign outside.
Anything else? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. The rest of the correspondence were in the package. Is there anything that needs to be done there? Other than to receive as correspondence? I need a motion for that. Someone to move. Thank you, Councillor Forrester. Seconder? Deputy Mayor Hutchison. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. All right. Moving along here. Down to number 11, corporate initiative, corporate and community initiatives authored this report. There we go. Mr. Hewlett, this is his report, but I do believe he's on holidays this week. Some people getting married on the weekend coming up. I didn't know you needed a week to get prepared for that, but yeah, anyways, I digress. Madam CEO, you're going to take this report.
Absolutely. Good morning, Council. On behalf of Mr. Hewlett, I'm happy to present this report. The province has opened the Community Sport and Recreation Infrastructure Fund, which they announced last year, and they are now accepting applications for it. As Council is aware, we have a new splash pad behind Durham Hall. We've started to look at usage, and there is a demand for washroom facilities and change areas now that that splash pad is up. We are recommending through this report that the municipality apply to this funding program for a 50% grant to install self-cleaning, fully accessible washrooms in the park.
Okay, questions? Councillor Noon, Joyce?
Well, thank you. My understanding when we were talking about the community hall there, that those washrooms as well needed upgrading. And I kind of thought that in conjunction when that was going to be done, that it would be able to facilitate the hall as well as the outdoor activities, including the splash pad and stuff now. So it looks like it's a total separate building now that's going to be put up to accommodate the splash pad and the wading pool and so on and so forth. So I just wanted some clarification that if we're going to do the funding, why not invest it on a combined project within the hall as well to upgrade it, to make it accessible for the users within that hall? The other concern I had was that in the report for the overall projected cost, there's no consultation reflecting where those numbers came from other than the director of finance. So I was just kind of wondering where those numbers come from in order to support it, because if we're not getting true identity where those numbers came from, they could be inflated somewhat. So, and also like the grant funding, if the proposed cost is 280,000, then the funding would be the 140. So until you actually know what those costs are involved, I don't know if I'd like to support it at this time based on those unknown numbers. If there could be some explanation as to some of those questions. Thank you.
There's a couple of questions in there. You're going to start, Michelle?
Thank you so much. If I may start the conversation through the chair to council. We did discuss washrooms for Durham Hall in its entirety. At that point, once we start that building, we are very concerned with the age of the building. We are going to recommend that there probably be a full building condition assessment review of that building before we undertake any projects within there. As we all know, when we start to get aging buildings, you rip out a wall and you are suddenly, could be at the mercy of finding things behind there that you may not be aware of. We also recognize that once you start construction on a municipal facility, the entire facility needs to become accessible, and that would be a huge undertaking. And given that we have a gap right now, we believe that these self-cleaning washrooms would be available to users of the hall as well, but with how we've been observing the needs at the splash pad, we do believe that there is a need for these outdoor washrooms at this point. Regarding the numbers that have been put out there, this is based on an estimate. We did receive a quote from the supplier. Mr. Hewlett spoke to the supplier on what the cost of these fully automated accessible bathrooms would be. So this is the cost. We not that I ever want, but should we be subject to, or the recipients of this grant funding, even though I'd hate to do it, we could always turn it down if necessary, but giving the deadlines for this, we felt it was important that we apply for it now when there is the opportunity. These opportunities don't come through often, and I will defer to the treasurer on how she would recommend, if we were successful, that subsequent matching funds of approximately $140,000 would be dealt with.
Thank you, through you, Mayor. We are looking at also redoing our development charges. So we're proposing, we're going to have a discussion with the consultant about whether, because this is a new growth-related infrastructure, a portion of it may be eligible going forward. So we're looking at possibly having that as an option in our development charges revenues. And otherwise, council could redirect the current reserve funding for the town hall washroom if they chose to towards the project. But otherwise, we would need to fund this through the tax levy for the future years, whether it's over a couple of years or whether it's all at once. That would be a discussion when we get into budget, but we would need to come up with our share.
Thank you. One more quick. Go ahead.
I guess I just looking at it that when we supported the splash pad, that this is now a new cost factor brought into the equation. So it's like a domino effect. We do one thing, now we've got something else. In the report, it reflects, the facility usage and where all those kind of, hours they represent. And then I was just wondering, was any consideration looked at how can you promote more investment in other urban centers for the residentials in those areas? Like, it's wonderful, we have the splash pad, but there are times where maybe residents in Newstead, Ellenwood, and Ayton don't have, you know, transportation to use the facility in here in Durham. So I'm just wondering if our corporate and community investment initiatives officer has looked at in excess, because we're spending all this money now here to accommodate what Durham has. What can we do to help other areas? Maybe you're feeling that I'm getting a little off topic, but when you're showing the facilities usage in these other areas, what can we do to accommodate them? So it's just something else I would add that Cody would look at for future needs so that we're kind of all shared evenly within West Grey in those other urban centers as well. Thank you.
Thank you, through the mayor to council. We have had discussions about that. Mr. Hewlett and I are looking at bringing forward a recommendation for a recreation master plan in 2025, which I am hopeful we will be able to undertake with existing staff, not through a consultant. But the reason this usage information is there is exactly for the reason you suggested, Councillor Noon. We need to get beyond making decisions based on one particular thing, but look at how we are providing services across the entire municipality. And like I say with my children, it doesn't always have to be the same, but it has to be equitable. So that will be part of a recreation master plan proposal that we will be bringing forward in 2025.
Okay. Councillor Hutchison.
Yeah, so I guess I have some questions with this too. I know a little bit about these autonomous washrooms. And I realize the concept is that, you know, there isn't a lot of maintenance in with them because they sort of, to a certain extent, self-cleaning, but they are expensive. My question when I read this was, what happened to the idea that in another year or 2 years, we're going to have an empty police station? And I thought there was some discussion about, can we use the basement of the police station or that building to put in public washrooms, change rooms, whatever. We are in desperate need of public washrooms downtown in Durham. And I've mentioned that different times. I don't know what the solution is really. This might be a step in the right direction, at least with the kiddie pool being there. There's a lot of people that, you know, use the porta potties that are there now. So I'm just wondering if we're a little bit too far ahead of the game here in terms of where are we going with our police station? Maybe we're selling that building off. I don't know. We have a fire hall that maybe is going to use it. I don't know. So there are a lot of things that tie into this. It's just a lot of money to put out, and maybe it doesn't really fit the bill what we need to have in the future there. So I'm not sure if I'm totally in support of this at this time. It'd be nice to have the money for sure, but then again, it puts stress on our budget in terms of coming up with 140,000. So those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Michelle?
Thank you through the mayor to council. Council has not made, as far as I'm aware, a decision on what will happen with the old police station. We are uncertain as to the condition. I'm hearing different things on the condition of that building and what it would be likely be able to be used for. Regarding the outdoor, this is an opportunity to apply for funding. It is totally at council's discretion, which is why we wanted this discussion at the table today. One of the advantages of these autonomous bathrooms is that you don't have to leave a building open and have it staffed and have ongoing cleaning. So there are certain advantages to these autonomous standalone pieces. And we are noticing a gap right now that, as Councillor Hutchison mentioned, we've got the wading pool there. Now that we've got the splash pad, we are having requests, especially now as we enhance Riverside Park, that there are needs for bathrooms. And we thought this would be an opportunity for council consideration to apply for funding. And if we were successful, council could make a decision on if we wanted to receive it and how we would fund our 50% portion.
Anyone else? Councillor Townsend, Jeb?
Thank you. Our portion, the $140,000, is it possible to get private funding or an organization to raise funds to offset that? Does that work? Can you work that way with grants? I don't know. Because it seems to be, a lot of money. We're putting a lot of funding into what Councillor Noonan said, we're putting a lot of funding into Durham, and a lot of things are happening in Durham, but we also have Newstead 8 and Elmwood too. And Durham's just a part of West Grey. And we need to look after the other parts of West Grey also. We need to spread the money around, share the wealth, so to speak. So I'm just wondering if funding could be put in place through other community groups to come up with that $140,000. I don't know that it should be more on the taxpayer's head. Just my thoughts.
Thank you through the mayor to council. Indeed, as long as the funds aren't coming from another government agency, we can come up with our 50% share of the funds in whichever way we wanted. I do believe it is Mr. Hewlett's plan to talk to community groups. He just wanted council's direction on whether you were interested in him even applying for this grant at this time, given that there's a deadline. I believe it's sometime in October for this. So he would work on that if it's council's wish for us to proceed.
Okay. Anything further? Scott? Councillor Forrester.
All right, I just had a question about these washrooms. Are they able to be used year round?
Thank you through the chair. My understanding is they are.
Councillor Shea. Jeff?
Could I ask the Director of Finance to clarify about the development charges? Is the idea that we could use our existing reserve of development charges for something like this, or we're exploring the idea that we could, or would it be a future development charges only?
It would be for the next study. So it would be, it's not currently in our development charges. There hasn't been any growth related assessment assigned to it. It wasn't on our proposal, but we are renewing our studies. So then if it were a portion of it, it likely wouldn't be 100% eligible, but if a portion of it was, but that'll be part of the review by the consultant as we do the new report, which will be adopted by council before April of 2025.
So there's a number of balls in the air, but it does seem like a positive step forward. We're not necessarily committing to the project if we apply for the funding. So we could sort of hash out the details at a later point. I always like the idea of having public washrooms downtown. I know the BIA is very interested in having something like that happen. Although I think they would probably rather it was in Riverside Park, but maybe that's a discussion we could have further down the road as well, if we approve this today. The other question I had was, would these washrooms be useful to unhoused people? And is that part of the, has any thinking gone into that? Because I know we have people living in, short-term encampments from time to time, living in tents in the woods and stuff like that. Would this help with that need?
Thank you through the mayor to council. We wouldn't, obviously, these washrooms would be available for anybody who wanted to make use of them. What they are fully autonomous. So we, as if we were installing these as the owners, we could program times and when they're open, et cetera. So if we wanted them open from 7 a.m. in the morning until 11 p.m. at night, those could be the hours we could choose. But we would not be monitoring who was using them. The advantage of these is that they do, after somebody utilizes them, they shut down, self-clean for 45 seconds. And you can also program in things like cleaning the floors after every 10 or 15 usage. So they do present a lot of opportunities that to monitor them if the facility becomes needs attendance, needs toilet paper or soaps, it notifies, there's an automatic notification. So it does take a lot of the human monitoring out of this, which is part of the reason now with sometimes more transient populations monitoring or utilizing facilities like this, it's hard for staff, our limited staff, to monitor these all the time. So there are advantages to this approach, hence why the cost is more expensive than simply installing portable regular toilets.
Joyce, we'll go here first. Yeah. Thanks.
With the automated water system, is there any known cost affiliated that would have impact on the municipal system with the users on the system? And another question with Councillor Shea asking about the development fees. What about parkland fees? Like, I don't know how that would be affiliated as well for the municipal portion taken from parkland fees. Thank you.
Gary?
Through you, Mary. Yes, certainly, parkland fees would be another possible option if council wanted to allocate a portion there. The water, it would be just another water connection that would be billed similar to the usage of the consumption on the at the splash pad.
Councillor Hutchison. Doug?
So just a couple quick questions. So has there been any thought about location? Because obviously these washrooms aren't going to be needed in the wintertime when we don't have a splash pad and a kiddie pool running. So, and how are they going to be accessible there? Whether it comes in off, what's that, Queen Street that goes through there? I'm just wondering about it. Just hasn't been thought on location and how we can access that in the wintertime.
Thank you. Through the mayor to council, we haven't looked at a site plan yet. We were broadly suggesting this would be the location that would be desirable. If council chose to authorize staff to proceed with those applications, those are things that we would absolutely be looking at to ensure that the site plan is maximized and that we have year-round access to them.
So just to further that, so I guess in some ways it's not a bad idea. I think maybe this is a pilot project in terms of stepping into the AI world, if you like. That maybe if it works here, maybe there is demand for other parks like the Riverside Park, which I believe right now the plan is porta potties with a fence around it so they can't tip them over. Yeah, so maybe it's not a bad idea. Try it and see how it works out, and maybe it's the way of the future. Who knows?
Certainly anybody that was at the AMO conference in Ottawa saw them there. Councillor Townsend, you're nodding your head. Jeffrey, you saw them, Scott. Yeah, they've been at a number of our different conferences. One of the things that I think maybe to address one of your concerns, Councillor Hutchison, was, where do you put them? Is there a possibility of using either the town hall and or the police station as well too? Would that make them redundant? Not necessarily, because they're fairly portable. Yeah, there is some connections and there's a bit of that, but they're in. If in 2 years' time, there's a bit of a variance, maybe then they go to Newstead the Lions Park already has a washroom, but, or they end up at Riverside Park, or they, you know, in various places. It's not, my understanding of the operation of them, they're not a fixed, you know, a permanent spot that they will end up. We could use them through it. Repurpose, I guess would be a better word, through it. But I think the initial thing here is we make the application, because that is the ultimate here right now of making the application. And to the CEO's point, we have, you know, she was very hesitant about applying and then going, ooh, maybe we don't. This council has done that before on a couple of applications, getting the application in and getting approved, but then because of the timing, doing a little bit more work. And I think that point, you were on council at that point, the one that comes to mind was the old library on the Durham Hill. We turned down a substantial amount of money on that because once you really got into it, Carrie's nodding her head, there was a lot more money than what had been granted to us. So, Michelle?
Thank you. And if I may, if council approves us applying to this granting program, it is implied, and I know it is Mr. Hewlett's intent to seek out private sponsorships to help move this forward. If council feels more comfortable, we can absolutely put that in the resolution as well, but it is implied, and that is part of the work that is regularly done by our corporate initiatives officer. I would caution as well, and one of the reasons we wanted to bring this forward, council always has the opportunity to turn down funds. It's not something we encourage, and it often doesn't look particularly good. You may be less well received on future applications if you apply and then turn things down on a continuous basis. But I think we're fairly confident that the community may also step up to support the matching fund requirement if we were successful.
Thank you. Joyce?
My concern though, with the funding application, it's like a business plan. So right now I'm feeling or hearing, we don't really have a site. We really don't know where the funds are coming from, whether it's from the corporation or whether it's from sponsorship. So when you're putting a funding application in, don't you need to make sure your I's are dotted and your T's are crossed so that you know? And if it's due in October, like Cody's going to have a definite small time frame to get all these things in place.
Michelle?
Through the mayor to council, funding applications require a commitment. So if this were approved to apply, this in essence would be a commitment from council that we would seek out to find the matching funds, because the grant is only allocated if there's a commitment, which is why we could at some point turn it down. Regarding the business plan, they don't necessarily need to know that your portable washrooms are going to be here versus here. They want them within the site, and given where we've gone with the splash pad and the sort of redevelopment of and revitalization of Durham and the Riverside Parquet project, we would put all of those words into the funding application. And I am confident that that would be more than enough to satisfy any funding agency's requirements to say, yes, there is a concerted plan here on how we are looking to revitalize Durham.
Deputy Mayor Tom?
Mayor Eccles, and through you to Treasurer Might, and I was just wondering, Director, if you could, what would be the impact if we did this on 1 year on the percentage for the levy versus over 2? And the only reason I'm saying 2, because I don't think we should be looking beyond that, because that would be into the next term of council, and I don't think that's appropriate to allocate or spend money into the next term. And let them make that decision, whoever it may be at the table here. So 1 year and 2 year, if I may, please.
Yes, through you, Mayor. Yes, so this project would need to be completed by March of 2027. We could potentially have two funding years if you wanted to, 25 and 26, to complete the project, schedule it. About 1% is probably going to be around that $130,000 to $140,000. So depending if you split it in half.
Thank you. So basically, if it's over 2 years, it's 0.5%, which is, again, that's on the levy permit because it doesn't come off after. I don't believe we can do a special, but if there was a way to do a special where it was taken off, then I could probably support that. I don't know if we have that ability or not. Director, would you be able to advise on that?
And that would be if you raised 100% of the tax levy for it. If you're going to use your reserves, we've currently been putting money aside for the town hall washroom. Those are discretionary. You could reallocate those and then look at paying those back or rebuilding that fund. So you could also have your option with your reserves, development charges, parkland, or your own reserves as well.
Okay, thank you. That's exactly where I'm going. So I just think with the state of affairs throughout the entire municipality with our other infrastructures, bridges and everything, I just don't think I don't want to see us put a 0.5 point on that stays there to eternity. And I think I think it's a poor decision for us to do that. But if there's other methods that we can do that, funding, whether it's through reserves and we have to build back the reserves, but I certainly don't want to see an impact on the levy for a project like this. Because it's a long-term thing when we got a lot of other things in front of us that we got to deal with.
Jeffrey.
So to the Director of Finance. So when we fund things out of the tax levy, we often fund things that are short-term one-time projects, don't we? And then they don't continue to get funded beyond the 1 year or the 2 years. Okay, thank you.
That's correct.
Yep. Okay. Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All those in favor? We have a moved and seconded again. Whoa. Oh, we had. Sorry. Thank you for keeping me straight, Mr. Clerk. You're doing a great job. That'll be on the performance appraisal. I need a mover and seconder for this. Moved by Councillor Shea, second by Councillor Hutchison. Thank you. And this is just moving to go forward with the application. Okay. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Michelle, for covering that for Cody. 11.2, Manager Planning and Development. The DJ Land, Sadler Street. Welcome this morning, Mr. Smith. And one is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Our subject is file ZA 06-2024, DJ Land, Sadler Street, rezoning for 2 pieces of property. Can I ask Ashley to bring up the PDF as opposed to the HTML? And we will start by taking a look at where we are on the property. Page 50, sorry, we'll go down to the subdivision plan, the subdivision, please. Plan. 52, please, of the PDF. Yes, thank you. So council's orientation, of course, at the top of the page of the draft plan of subdivision, which is related to the zoning this morning, Lambton Street East, at the bottom of the page, Sadler Street, a new proposed Street A running north-south connecting Lambton Street East and Sadler Street, and a new private street running east-west into what's called Block 27. In terms of the development itself, we'll start on the west side, northwest corner, lot 1 and 2 is semi-detached. Lot 3, 4, 5, and 6, the first set of street townhouses. 7, 8, 9, 10, another set of street townhouses. 11 and 12, a semi-detached lot. A stormwater block, the bottom north, southeast, southwest corner. Moving to the east side of Street A, the very top, lot 13 and 14, semi-detached. Moving south, a block of 4 townhouses. South of that, a block of 5, and finally a block of 4 townhouses at the very southeast corner of Sadler Street and proposed Street A. The last block that we'll talk about is what's called Block 27, running east-west. Block 27 is for the proposed vacant land condominium unit, and we would see Block 27 having a private street and then a number of units both on the north side and the south side of that private street. We're going to go to page 51, please. Thank you. This is a draft of the zoning bylaw amendment schedule that will go along with a recommendation from the planning department, and it's broken down in terms of, again, some of the units. So in the upper left-hand corner, the R2A is the semi-detached, lots 1 and 2. The R2D is the set of townhouses along the west side of Street A. The R2B is the semi-detached at the south end. The OS is the stormwater management pond. Moving to the east side of Street A, the R2C at the very north are the 2 semi-detached, is the semi-detached unit. The R2E being the street townhouses on the east side of Street A. And then the R3Y being the vacant land condominium on Block 27. And then to the east of that is the remnant land to be a proposal for an environmental, a state residential zoning. So that is the lay of the land, and it's important for us to understand these various blocks because of our recommendations on these various blocks are slightly different depending on the type of unit we're looking at and their location on the map. We'll go up, page 53 for 1 minute, please. 53 is a aerial of the property, giving you an idea of our overall layout and its neighbors. It's composed of, again, the 2 pieces of property, the east-west property along Lambton Street East, and then the north-south chunk that moves down to Sadler Street. Within your package, you'll be able to zoom in a bit more. And that's our reason for using the aerial is to understand our proximity and who our neighbors are and their locations are in vicinity to the development altogether. In particular, along the south side, along Sadler Street, we take a look at the relationship between the proposed subdivision housing and the existing residential development that's along there and its location. We can see those houses are pretty much at the far south end of their lots, leaving a fair amount of open space or private land between that and the proposed condominium unit to the north. And then same thing on the east side, the west side along Rock Street. We can see the houses are pretty much pulled out towards the Rock Street, leaving a fair amount of rear yard that would again abut on rear yard on the new Street A lots. So overall, we have good separation of existing housing from proposed housing, even with some of the proposed changes in the zoning bylaw for rear yard setbacks. Page 28, please. Thank you. The zoning bylaw amendment would provide relief from the provisions of the R2 medium density residential zone and the R3 high density zone in order to permit the construction of 56 dwelling units in total. That is a combined between the vacant land condominium and the freehold lots that would be on Street A. The new vacant land, as I mentioned, 30 out of the 56. There were some planning concerns with the vacant land condominium, and we think we can be rectified with the draft bylaws before council this morning. The condominium lands and the setup for those properties or for those buildings have been discussed between the planning department and the consultant for the property owner and with the property owner themselves to trying to come to an understanding of how to make this work overall. A public meeting was held Tuesday, August 13th, 2024. Multiple comments have been received from abutting property owners. The development can connect to municipal water, municipal sewer, and a stormwater management pond to be constructed. There is the downstream sewer on Sadler Street. However, this connection, that stormwater management pond we looked at in the bottom east southwest corner, does connect to the Sadler Street storm system. Overall, that storm system does have some concerns downstream, if I can use that word, down the pipe. But the implementation of the stormwater management pond itself is actually quite possibly an improvement in the situation in that we detain water before it leaves the system overall. So we provide additional relief and time-wise. So we will be taking a look with the Grey County Grey County, the condition of draft approval that the downstream sewer be further reviewed within that, but we see no issues at this particular time on stormwater and the downstream issues. The developer must still address some issues regarding potential karst topography and a potential hazard from the old railway bed to the satisfaction of the County of Grey. And that can be embedded within the draft plan of subdivision conditions. We don't see any particular issues with the karst, although it does need to be taken a look at. And the reason we don't see issues with the karst is because there are no visible signs of that where karst does exist within the Bruce Grey area. We do see visible signs of that beforehand. The second thing is, of course, the karst in this particular location is also in the same vicinity of the old railway bed. And all of that traffic over the many years, if it was on karst, it probably would have broken through. So there's a long-term use of heavy traffic at the north end of karst, together with the highway and so on and so forth in that area, that would have shown probably visible signs of that on the surface, and it doesn't exist. Otherwise, that rail bed would have been a problem years and years ago as opposed to what it is. So we don't see a potential issue with that. Quick discussion with the county. You did talk with the Ministry of Natural Resources. An individual there is saying the karst in this particular is, again, it's different if you use that word for karst in other places, and it doesn't visibly show itself or pose a significant problem in many areas. But however, we are still requiring a basic karst study to be taken a look at, and the old rail bed in terms of a record of site condition. As I mentioned, we did circulate the application for zoning to agencies, to the West Grey Public Works, to West Grey Building, to the County Transportation, and to the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. Overall, we have no particular concerns from any of them, although they did, again, bring up the issues of karst in some considerations and the issues with the storm water from the Director of Public Works and the requirement to take a look at that in a bigger sense than just the Sadler Street development overall. The Director of Public Works also mentioned that looking for 6.5 meters of front yard. That is the distance from the edge of the municipal right-of-way to the face of a building of 6.5 meters. And we've been able to incorporate that into a number of different aspects of the development in order to achieve that. We did receive comments from the public meeting of August 13th. Comments to council included that the stormwater pond maybe be a breeding place for mosquitoes. There were concerns about the Rock Street backyards and requesting fencing along the property line to stop trespassing, about the old railway bed, and that may cause contamination of groundwater if the material is removed. It's also mapped as karst. The subdivision is partly within the wellhead protection area E. Could be impacts on the groundwater. Construction will require removal of trees. Construction on bedrock may cause vibration and damage to homes. And how will noise and dust during construction be addressed? The Sadler Street backyards, there's a request for fencing along the rear of the condo block to stop trespassing. And that affordable housing, for example, small condominium units will bring down property values in the area as a whole. Our response in some regards, stormwater management pond, the pond is designed to be a dry pond for the majority of the time. There will be water in it, but it's not being constructed below the groundwater table. So when it rains, there'll be water in the pond, but it's expected to drain out. Therefore, we're not going to have a permanent wetland or wet pond in the area. Trespassing, we do not automatically require fencing on any development. Trespassing, of course, becomes a policing issue, and fencing in itself is not the solution to trespass issues. When we take a look at fencing itself, we take a look at the relationship between the proposed development, how close it is, whether or not we have parking and headlights, and the distances between the proposed development and existing development. And in this particular case, as I mentioned, looking at the aerials, we believe there's more than enough backyards, even with some slight reductions, that we don't require fencing. Fencing is a cost. In this particular case, we do not see as being warranted either on the Rock Street side or on the Sadler Street side. The rail bed concerns, a record of site condition has been required by the County of Grey as a condition of draft approval. Lock grading, all the development is proposed to be graded such that runoff will not move onto adjacent properties. We are grading this property for so the water moves into the property as opposed to rolling onto adjacent properties. Wellhead issues, the risk management office for the Grey Bruce, Northern Bruce Peninsula, whatever it is, source protection has signed off on it. Vibration, West Grey and Grey County will discuss whether there is a need for a pre-construction building assessment as a condition of draft approval. Dust, subdivision agreement between the development and West Grey would address site management issues. And noise, in general, all property owners must adhere to the West Grey noise bylaw. Property values are not a valid planning concern about how we change around and whether or not we add housing, single-family housing, apartment buildings, whatever it is, to the landscape are not planning issues in this particular case. There were a number of submissions or documents submitted by Cobide Engineering in support of the application, including an archaeological assessment, environmental impact study, functional servicing, planning justification, stormwater management, traffic study, and a wellhead protection area section 59 clearance. We have evaluated the application against the Planning Act and the Provincial Policy Statement 2020. We've taken a look at the County of Grey official plan in regards to development within a primary settlement area. And we've also taken a look at the West Grey official plan in terms of development within the West Grey official plan. In particular, the issues that were come up with in terms of parkland, record of site condition, vibration, traffic, water supply, lock grading, stormwater management, fencing, landscape buffering, and all the rest of it. Conditions can be covered off by conditions of draft approval, or as I mentioned, in some cases, we're not requiring fencing in the bigger sense of the word. The municipality of West Grey zoning bylaw reflects a number of changes that are required in order to make the development go ahead. Some that would address setbacks for front yards, and some that address setbacks to interior side yards in order to achieve the development. Overall, the reductions are minor in nature, in our opinion. We have not removed an entire backyard. We have not removed an entire front yard to make the development work. The condominium development in particular is tight. But the developers' goal here for some of the potential lower cost housing and all the rest of it, it requires us to take, I think, a look at some of the amendments proposed to council in terms of overall density, how it works, and so on and so forth. But it can work, but it's not exactly the easiest at the end of the day. It does have some tightness in terms of parking and so on and so forth on the condominium land that we believe can be addressed through adequate zoning and through site plan that we propose in front of council. Overall, we find the development and the zoning itself maintains the intent and purpose of the West Grey official plan, maintains the intent and purpose of the County of Grey official plan, conforms to the provincial policy statement, and overall represents good planning. And we recommend to council that a zoning bylaw amendment as proposed in the recommendation be brought forward to a future meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for that comprehensive review of the report. Thank you very much, Dave. Any questions, comments on the report? Councillor Shea, Jeff?
Thank you. When we had the public meeting, I seem to recall that we were discussing the properties along Street A or Road A, and that the condominium section was referred to as future development, as though that was not being studied in that particular public meeting. The representative for I think Cobite was representing the proponent, and they said in that meeting, the vacant land condominium is currently proposed. That is not before council or county at this point. So I thought that the whole idea of doing the condominium development was going to be a future project, which would presumably require a future public meeting. Did I misunderstand that?
Not overall. So what you're seeing is zoning that allows for street townhouses to go in, or sorry, clustered townhouses to go in because it's not on a street. Whether or not it becomes a condominium is a discussion between the owner and the county about applying for a condominium. It can be built as rental under what we've recommending approval. Whether or not it goes from a rental to a condominium is an application to the County of Grey. So you can't, when you drive down a street or whatever it is, you can't necessarily tell whether or not a development is rental or condominium. It's a form of ownership, not the style of development. What's before you here is the ability to build, which you see on the plans, and whether or not it becomes a vacant land condominium or not is kind of neither here nor there. You know what I mean? That is simply, again, a form of ownership. What we're recommending to you here is the ability to build, as what you're seeing on the drawings that were provided to you for the draft plan of subdivision and into the zoning itself. So the reason why is that there's a number of different styles of condominium that may fit this development. Whether it's a vacant land condominium or a standard or a phase condominium is neither here nor there. The question is whether or not the proposal for the way the buildings are set up is a good idea for the zoning.
How common is it for developments of this nature to have private roads? Because the private road seems like a bad idea to me. I assume that the people who live on that road are going to pay the same taxes per the value of their property as anyone else. And yet, if all the rest of us who live on roads and pay taxes are paying for the road, these people will be paying the taxes, and yet they're not paying for the road. And somewhere in the future, 30, 40 years or 20 years, whatever, the road is going to have to get rebuilt. And those people, the 20 people who live on that road are going to have to pay that entirely out of their own pockets. Will they not be squeaking and squawking about that at that point?
So we're talking about here is a vacant land condominium or even a standard phase condominium, a condominium, period. Okay? Condominium period in Ontario, Canada is set up for so that there's a number of things that go to the condominium corporation for whether it's a parking lot. Think of the road here as a quote unquote parking lot together with the driveways as a parking lot. It's no different than that kind of setup as opposed to a quote unquote road. If we were to require a municipal roadway here, there would not be any room left for the housing. So condominiums come up in order to take advantage of smaller right-of-ways and so on and so forth that are then a requirement, as you pointed out, for the long-term maintenance of a condominium corporation. A condominium fee that is charged to each unit reflects the long-term replacement cost of those things that the condominium is responsible for. In this particular case, if it's a vacant land of this nature, it would be the road pavement, it would be the sewer and water line, it would be the storm sewer line, it would be the street lights. So yes, it's not uncommon at all in Ontario in order for so that you have if you want to call it that, smaller allowances, roadway widths in this particular case, municipal services where they're located and so on and so forth, in order to be able to have the condominium corporation assume it rather than the municipality of West Gray. Do condominium corporations fold? In Ontario, typically not. Okay. There is the ability to, again, recoup the fees where I have seen an application to municipality to take over services. What's come back is that the original construction doesn't meet municipal standard. This won't meet municipal standard. That's why we are able to get the number of units on the property in order to make it affordable that it comes about.
So our services would end at the end of this lot 27. We wouldn't have any water and sewer going down that road to those houses.
That is correct. The line ends at the edge of the right of way to a lot. Consider block 27 to be a lot with a bigger water line on it and a bigger sewer line that goes way down the roadway to somebody's house way down at the end.
So why wouldn't every developer, like say the developments at the top of the Durham Hill, why wouldn't every developer say we want to have condominiums so that we can build the roads to the standards that we want rather than to municipal standards?
It comes down to market, about what the market I think can absorb and what people are interested in. So this type of vacant land condominium comes with more responsibilities on the homeowner than some. For example, they're responsible for mowing their front yards and their backyards, for shoveling their driveways, for doing their own roofs and all the rest of it. So there's only a certain market in some respects for some of that. Same thing with a standard phase or standard condominium where you have an apartment building. There's only so much market interest in that kind of thing overall. So it pops up here and there. There's no doubt about it. Apartment buildings are ripe for changes to condominium because they, how they're set up. So I think it comes down to what a developer sees as marketable, number one, and number two is available land. As I pointed out, this one here, putting a municipal street down block 27 would not work at all in order to be able to use the property in a more wholesome way.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Townsend. No?
Just a question on the setbacks and the for the driveways and everything with the sidewalks and even the roads themselves. I mean, as we're making the roads narrower to accommodate the building of more homes and whatnot. But it's also creating, in my mind anyway, creating us other problems with mobility within those settlement areas. And I can only use the development at the top of the hill as an example. When you get homeowners that are parking, travel trailers, boats, RVs and stuff in their driveway, and then they're using the road as a parking lot, and you get a lot of neighbors doing that, it makes it very difficult to navigate down those streets to get through that subdivision. Or if somebody has people over or a get together, it creates not only a navigation problem, which could be a problem for emergency vehicles, it also creates a safety hazard for children playing in the area and whatnot in and out of the cars. So is making the streets, I understand making the streets narrower to accommodate more building helps the builder, but is it helping us as a municipality overall? And especially too, we're seeing a lot more now. We will get back to real winters again at some point. And with snow removal and snow plowing and whatnot, I know a lot of these new subdivisions are having big issues with where do you put the snow, because the people are pushing it out onto the street and the town's pushing it back, and it's just a back and forth. So are we creating some of our own problems as opposed to, like other residential streets in Durham that are a lot wider? So just a thought.
So Street A is a standard municipal street, right? It's got a full right of way width. It's being built to municipal standard, which means it has what we call the boulevard between the edge of the pavement and the property line, which the municipality uses quote unquote for snow storage when the snow plow goes by. And I'm going to differentiate between the east side of Street A and the west side. The sidewalk is going down the west side, which is why we wanted the 6.5 meters on the west side for driveway length and for snow storage and what is available in the front yards. And then we have a little bit of boulevard left on the west side for that, because of course you want to plow this. If you plow the sidewalk, it needs to go somewhere both ways. The east side is no sidewalk, so we actually have a little bit more room for snow storage that the property owner then can use on West Gray property, right between the property line and the roadway. So we're pretty much good for Street A overall. It is a standard construction. The Block 27 condominium road is a private street. Is proposed to have a 7 meter to 3.5 meter lane ways, which is enough for fire and for a car. It will have to be posted as a fire route. It is solely under the jurisdiction of the condominium board then to enforce their parking requirements and their safety requirements. And it is 100% the condominium board obligation to remove the snow from. And the discussions is that the way it works is it's going to have to be plowed to the east end, and with limited snow storage, it's going to have to be trucked off site, which is a cost to the condominium corporation. There's no doubt about it. Those are fully realized up front by the developer. You can say it's very important for a purchaser to understand what they're buying. Right? So if you come in and you say, well, so we've set this up, take a look, the condominium is set up for 1-bedroom units. Okay? Certain target audience for that, right? So I'm not just going to say that somebody's not going to own a trailer, but there's just no room for it on the property, which is going to be a condominium corporation discussion about some of the things going off. Okay, so it's a bit of compromise between all of them, but I think we come up with a set of rules that, if enforced properly by the board, okay, that will work overall.
All right. One more further, Jeff. Go ahead.
So just to clarify that, your last comment, the board would be enforcing the fire route? I mean, I thought our police department enforces fire routes on other properties within the municipality, including private properties.
I guess you could say there's a joint responsibility. First of all, the corporation has the responsibility for, so let's take a different example. You go to the mall and it's posted as fire route. Okay, both the fire department and the mall ownership have a responsibility to enforcing that fire route. Okay, more so typically in the mall with their security and so on and so forth than the fire department having to constantly come by and go, by the way, there's a car parked in there while they run into chapters or whatever. You know what I mean? So here's the same thing, right? It's going to be that condominium corporation that pretty much on the day-to-day basis has the responsibility for that. Whether or not the fire department and fire chief or fire prevention officer goes in occasionally and has a concern with it, that I guess is up to them under their own enforcement.
Okay, fine. My final question is, if you could clarify, you said that there was, with stormwater management, that there was some concern about downstream capacity, and that this probably wouldn't impact that, but that some review was being done jointly with the county about the downstream capacity. I was just curious what that process was.
Right. Maybe I misspoke the word county in this particular case. So the goal of stormwater overall is relatively simple for us planners. And that's what it comes down to, is what they call is the post-development flows can't be any greater than the pre-development flows, because our systems can't handle a sudden inrush of water, right? We don't have the pipe sizes for it. So we install the stormwater management pond in order to detain water overall for, so that when we put it back into the system, that's coming in at a slower rate than it would have been done pre-development. We're still putting water into the Sadler Street system, and overall downstream of Sadler Street has some issues that crop up occasionally because of one of the small tributaries or small streams that come into Sadler Street downstream. So overall, since this development does plug into Sadler Street, we do have to take a look at the bigger system. We do have some concerns downstream, which the Director of Public Works is taking a look at with a consultant in order to be able to model to see how it works with everything. But the stormwater management pond itself is overall probably a benefit to the system because we are going to take all the water and detain it rather than letting it run off. And as I said, that downstream Sadler review is being done with the Director of Public Works as part of a separate review than from Sadler.
Very good discussion. Any other questions? Do we have a mover then for the recommendation? Great discussion on it. And the recommendation, I can find it here, I believe was to move to pass a bylaw at a future meeting. Or to prepare a bylaw. That's the recommendation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Hutchison, seconder, Councillor Shea. Any further questions or comments? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried.
Thank you,
All
Council.
right. Thank you, David. We want to take a short break. We're going to do this for a little over an hour now. So I don't seize up. Thank you. Can we be back at 20 after? No, let's say 25. 10:25 we'll reconvene. Okay, we'll call the meeting back to order. Brings us down to 11.3. Director of Infrastructure. You've got something new for us, Jeff?
Good morning. What you have in front of you is a staff report regarding Bridge N056. As you are aware, it was recently closed earlier this month. We have examined three options for you: do nothing, rehabilitation, and replacement. At this time, the abutments and the steel are in excellent condition, and the deck could potentially be replaced. So for your 2025 budget, you will see a budget request to rehabilitate the structure with a new wood deck. For your information, we've included in the staff report the repair detail we provided for structure 55. The repair detail would be very similar to that.
Joyce. Councilor Ned.
With this rehabilitation, how much of a tonnage like is allowed on that road if it's rehabilitated, or what was it currently before it was closed, and with rehabilitation, like I'm looking at that heavy farm equipment going over it once it's rehabilitated.
So currently there is no load restriction. What we would do is when we take the wood off, we would do a closer examination of the steel. We would likely post a weight limit, but it would not necessarily limit tractor trailers per se.
Anything else? Anybody? Councilor Hutchison. Doug?
So this bridge structure is similar to some of the other ones, like you said, that are closed. This one sounds like it is a candidate for replacement or rehabilitation, redoing the deck. I guess look forward to our meeting. We have a meeting this week on bridges coming up on Thursday. Look forward to that. I think somewhere down the line we have to.
I think you better be here
Tomorrow.
tomorrow for it.
Oh, tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I knew I had a meeting on Thursday.
Cross over a bridge to get.
Cemeteries
Yeah.
Thursday. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think somewhere down the line we have to start taking a hard look at which ones we rehabilitate and which ones we close. I mean, that's been a point of discussion for a long time, but I really do think that going forward, based on where we're at, we're not going to be able to redo all our bridges or fix them. We're going to have to look at some serious closures, I think, down the road. So that's sort of my opinion, but I look forward to this bridge discussion for sure.
Councilor Ned, Joyce?
I know, as you said, it's part of a bridge discussion, but this again is on a concession road. It's not on a side road, so it's a more heavily trafficked area based on its location. Just a comment, I guess. Thanks.
I'm going to ask your comment or your estimate. Is that from the county bridge or any private companies out there that do this type of decking? Yeah. Are we at the upset limit at 350,000, or I go and get the Mennonites and cut a few hemlock and put it in for $100?
So two thoughts. The initial quote was based on Westbury purchasing the material, and there would be working with the county, and there would be a fee from the county to cover their staff and material time and machine time for that matter. In terms of milling the lumber, that is always an option, but in the repair detail, it is structural, and they do specify a specific two types of lumber to pick from. So if it was locally milled, it would need to be graded to meet one of those criteria.
Gary, do you know, just on curiosity, we did a deck. Matter of fact, it's on one that is back up, was on concession 18, just off of Gray Road 3. that was done in what, 2002, 2004, somewhere in that neighborhood. Like I say, on Conservation Road or at Fred Gerson's bridge is the one I like to say. But it is closed right now. For the simple fact that at the time we adhered to engineering specifics and said, put the wood down on the bridge and then cover it with asphalt. Since then, the engineers have come up with an idea that that's not just so good. As we've seen on this bridge and the one on the 18th as well, too. You remember what that cost us? Because the county did that one as well, too. Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood. 2004, 2000.
I wasn't the treasurer at that point, so I don't have that.
I guess, yeah, it's not for immediate, but still at school. And then public school probably is the next thing you're going to say. Just to give me basically an idea of what it would be an inflationary cost from that time. But you can see Joyce nodding her head and saying she remembers that happening as an employee. Yeah. Yeah, it'd be very similar at that point in time is what the county did for us there, but. Probably. Okay. I think at this point, this is just for receive this report for information as to what we're going to do. With the condition of the bridges the way they are, if it was even a more serious or a more heavily used road at emergency vehicles, in our budget coming up, do we look at this bridge closed and it's used, as Councillor Nunes said, heavily? Do we have an emergency fund? This one wasn't really on the idea, and all of a sudden we need to close it, obviously by the pictures and the rot of the wood. In the budget coming forward, there is a reserve to cover off heavy snow seasons. I believe we have, Carrie, that to balance. I'm just worried that if we keep going the way we are, and there's going to be a bridge that is an absolute, we can't close. Do you wait? Oh, well, we can't do it now. In 2024, we've got to wait until 2025. We can probably get away with that on this one. But there's some bridges out there that I don't think we can close. And if we need to put a new deck on, an emergency one that comes up, we don't have funding there. We can phone up the insurance company. Is that something for going forward? I'll maybe say that Director of Public Works and the Director of Finance take a look at that, and maybe for council's idea of what would come forward in a budget and what that would look like to build up something like that for emergency purposes. I can see Carrie jotting it down. I'm not sure that she agrees with me, but budget is a council, is owned by the council. Madam CEO, Michelle.
Thank you. And through you, Mayor, to Council, the Director of Public Works, Director of Finance, and I have been chatting about this as well. Obviously, we have a very significant meeting tomorrow to discuss bridges, and there is the understanding of the needs of the community related to bridges and how we deal with the aging infrastructure. And then the secondary piece with it is the financing piece as well. And we're looking at how we present that for council consideration including us understanding that there may need to be some flexibility. The report you'll get tomorrow talks about prioritization and the ones that at this point have been identified as critical. But as per the director's report today, we see other things come up. So there's got to be some flexibility. And do we need to look at a reserve or a special levy or something? And that will be some of the big discussions that will stem from tomorrow's meeting and I suspect subsequent meetings.
Thank you, Madam CEO. Councillor Townsend, Doug?
And again, knowing we have our bridge meeting tomorrow, but just asking the director, do you know how many other wood deck bridges we have out there that we've paved over? Like, is there some rehabilitation we could do to get that pavement off that might save us, you know, a few years?
Through your worship, yes, we are doing a count on how many of those exist. Sad part of that story is it's extremely difficult to take off the asphalt without the wood coming with it. So until we're prepared to commit to replacing the deck, I'm hesitant to get too aggressive with it.
I don't look at him, then I don't have to get back on the track here. Yeah, we're moving slightly off of the report, but I think we've had a good discussion. I need somebody to move the recommendation to receive. Deputy Mayor? Oh, thank you. Councillor Townsend, Doug, thanks. Any further discussion on the motion? Call the question and all those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Okay. Thank you, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Then we're down to 11.3, 11.4, mistake. 11.4, routine disclosure and active dissemination policy. Wow, this seems riveting. Yeah. Sorry, Jamie, please.
Thank you, Mayor Eccles. I do find it rather fascinating, so I will say I would agree with your comment. It is quite riveting. A foundational pillar of the Municipal Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act is that information should be available to the public. The overarching principle in the draft policy is to advance the view that information held by the municipality of West Grey should be made available to the public. The practice of routine disclosure and active dissemination is a cost-effective and client-friendly way of providing information to the public. The purpose of this policy is to enhance access to records and information, make the public aware of their rights to access information, and simplify access where possible. The municipality is dedicated to implementing a culture of openness through this policy and is encouraging a more open and responsive relationship between the municipality and the public it serves. So the recommendation of the report is that council direct staff to bring forward a bylaw to adopt a routine disclosure and active dissemination policy.
All right, any questions on this before I take the motion? Councillor Shay, yeah?
So what sorts of information would be captured by this and actively disseminated?
Jamie?
That is an excellent question. I would say most of the time, anything that the municipality deals with that isn't confidential, be it proprietary or personal information, could be accessed by the public. So if there's information about bridges, for example, if somebody has a question about studies, things like that, by and large, most of that is publicly available. But at this moment in time, somebody would have to go through a formal FOI process whereby they pay $5, they submit their application, 30-day clock starts. I send out a request to the responsive department to say, hey, please look for these items. And then we go through that process. There's a formal letter that's prepared and submitted back to the applicant with the decision on disclosure. So this really does streamline that. And the intent of this policy is to sit with each of the departments and go through the types of records that they would hold and determine what would be eligible for disclosure and what would not be. So in doing so, what we would do as staff is prepare that plan and place it on the website so the public is aware of what types of documents they could access outside of an FOI process.
Further, go ahead.
So I would go on the website and I would find out that Public Works has 15 consultants reports that I might want to look at. So I could then request that, or would you take the 50 consultants reports and actually put them on the website?
A bit of both, through Miracles. So you will see on our website now, we do have a webpage called Plans, Reports and Studies. So many of the reports that West Grey has commissioned on our behalf are posted on that particular page. So we do try to routinely disclose content presently. This will just make that a little bit more robust. So the plan that you would see on our website wouldn't necessarily say West Grey has 50 reports on A, B, C, and D, but it would rather say these types of documents are subject to routine disclosure or active dissemination. So if you're looking for something like this, please reach out to us and we'd be happy to provide you with that.
Anything else? Questions for Jamie? So this is basically the recommendation here is asking for directing staff to bring forward a bylaw to basically make us more open and transparent or easy to access information. I think to quote from another higher part of government, this is cutting the red tape. Yes, okay, I got him to nod. Yes, thank you. Do we have somebody that would like to move this? Doug and Doug. Councillor Townsend and Councillor Hutchison. Any other questions on the recommendation? So moved. Seconded. Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That's carried. Thank you, Jamie. And another one. Mr. Clerk, GovStack website update and proposal. Go ahead, Jamie.
Thank you, Miracles, and through you. So this report is for a GovStack website update proposal. Websites should be refreshed every 5 years to ensure they do not become stale. Switching to GovStack will allow us to better engage with the public and will provide for a better website experience from an end user perspective. The current iCreate content management system that West Grey is using is reaching its end of life and will no longer be supported after a certain point in time. And switching to GovStack provides many benefits, including a free website redesign and refresh in year 3 after the transition. Staff recommend using modernization grant funding to cover the cost of transitioning, so there is no impact to the tax levy. GHD is a vendor of record with the Government of Ontario and a preferred vendor of the Association of Municipalities of Ontario, and switching to GovStack will ensure that the West Grey website is fully AODI compliant. So the recommendation of the report is that Council authorize staff to proceed with the redevelopment of the website, direct staff to transfer $24,000 from the modernization reserve to cover the redesign, and direct staff to enter into an agreement with GHD for the implementation of the GovStack content management system.
Okay, any questions on this? Councillor Hutchison first. Doug?
Yeah, I look forward to the refurbishing of the website. I think that's something that we need to do. But my question is, are we switching from eSolutions, or I guess it's GHD, to this GovStack? Is this a new company that's taking over for them, or is it just an overlay? How's that working?
So through Miracles, eSolutions has gone through several iterations over its life. So it was originally eSolutions. It did transition over to GHD, and their new content management system and their new branding is GovStack. So it's the same company. So this wouldn't be considered a new website, more or less. It would be considered a change order. So it is a little bit cheaper than going out for a brand new website with a new provider, which is why we see that cost only being $23,000 and change. So it is largely modeled off of the iCreate and the eSolutions site. However, it is far more user-friendly. I did have an opportunity to do a demo with them, and the functionality and the capabilities that we at the staff level would be able to undertake outside of having to go back to them to request a change order, which inevitably costs money, are far greater. So this is a far more user-friendly website and will hopefully allow for better engagement with the public.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And Councillor Townsend.
Just a question, and this maybe gets into a little bit more of our, when we'll be having our budget talks. could this website incorporate, like I know the police have their own website, the library has its own website and all that stuff. Could that all be brought in-house under one municipal, West Gray website with different tabs that you could click on to go to the library or the police or whatever? Because I know like in the library budget, we're budgeting money for the website, but could bringing it all in-house in the municipality then save us money on our other budgets?
Jamie?
Three Miracles, I would say that anything is possible. It's certainly something that can be considered if the library board and the police board is open to having those discussions and centralizing that. I have seen situations in the past, not so much with police websites, but where library websites are managed under the municipality's website. So it has functioned well in the past, and if there's a way to find efficiencies there, that's something that can be explored.
Okay, Joyce. Councillor New.
Again, I hope I'm not getting off topic, but when we talk about rebranding, I was just kind of wondering if maybe our West Gray logo could have another punch of color. So I don't know if you'd need to have that approval when you're, working with a new website provider.
Jamie?
Three Miracles. I don't know that it's a good idea that we talk about rebranding today, but what I can say is that the new website through GHD, if we were to make a change like that if the logo were to be different or we incorporated color into our branding, we would have the ability in-house to make those changes to the website without there being an additional cost. So it's something that we can seamlessly do should that ever arise.
Okay. Jeffrey, Councillor Shea.
This is related to a discussion we had last week. Will we lose any functionality? And I've got three parts to this question. I told you that I like to be able to look up old minutes and agendas. I think probably we all do, just to refresh ourselves on current or historical issues. We can only look back to minutes and agendas from the time that we adopted the current website. We cannot now go back further than that. We used to be able to, but when we got the new website, we lost that capability. So I'm curious, when we get this new website, how far back will we be able to go with looking at minutes and agendas? So that's the second part of my question. And the third part is, can we get this new website up and running before we decommission the old website? Just so that if we look at it and go, oh my God, there's no picture of the mayor or something, that we could like put the brakes on the launch until we sort of identify that some hidden functionality got lost.
So Three Miracles, there should be no functionalities of the current website that would be lost in transitioning over to GovStack. So everything that we can do now, we will still be able to do. It will just be easier to do and more user-friendly. With respect to your question about agendas and minutes, I'm just going to provide a little bit of clarification on that. That wasn't a result of transitioning the website from the previous website to the new one. That was a result of transitioning from the previous agenda management system into eScribe. So eScribe transitioned everything over up to a certain date from previously. So everything that you see on our current website in terms of agendas and minutes will be transferred into the new website through an embedded link into the iframe. And I'm getting a little too technical here, but all of that content will still be there and it will look how it does now on the calendar in terms of agendas and minutes. So all of that will be there. With respect to your question about being able to see it before we decommission the current website, I would say yes, that's something that we can do. The provider will not terminate the current website until we've said, okay, go ahead, we're ready to transition completely. That said, once the transition process starts and we enter into an agreement with them, the cost will not be like, we won't be able to get that money back. So we can tweak it and make it how we want it to be, but once we started, the cost is what it is, and we aren't able to recoup that. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, you lost me when you started talking about websites and incorporating and whatnot, so way technical. Anything else? What, I think it's a very good thing, and I gotta say kudos to staff for coming up in comparison, doing a good job of finding an effective and efficient and a cost-effective process here. Do something that ultimately we have to do. Okay, so do I have anyone that wants to move the recommendation? Councillor Forrester and Councillor Noon. Thank you. Directing staff to go with GovStack to update the website. Start into the work on updating the website. Any other questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. Good. That's it for staff reports. Questions? Procedural bylaw is a question. Anything council wants to question on past minutes? And we will bring out the timer so that you can only go for, this one's, we got to get you using it more. Come on, Jim. No questions? All right. Bylaws. We have 2 bylaws that are on the agenda. Have a mover and a seconder to approve those. Moved by Councillor Townsend, seconded by Deputy Mayor Hutchison. It's confirming bylaw and the bylaw of setting the speed rates on concession 12. Normanby, concession 12 Normanby. Okay. Any questions on the motion? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That is carried. New business? None that I'm aware of. Jamie, you haven't got anything? Announcements? Anybody have anything that they would like to make an announcement on? Councillor Shea.
Well, I'll just say that I attended a roundtable on economic development with the Minister of Rural Affairs.
Yes.
Yesterday, and for my contribution to the meeting, I tried to tie the provision of healthcare and hospitals to economic development, so that we're looking at these issues holistically and not having them separated off into separate silos. So I don't know how much impact that had, but I wasn't the only one that made that argument, but that's what I have to report.
Yep. I think Councillor Townsend and myself were there as well too, and it was in Clifford. 3 other MPPs were there from the Conservatives. They're doing a roundtable discussion on rural economic development from the minister's new ministry that they set up, Lisa Thompson. They've been around Ontario. Am I correct in saying they had 5 different sessions already, or 7? And they've got 3 or 4 more set up, Niagara, some more towards the southwest. They've been in the north, and I guess it's a strategy for the ministers to get out and meet some of the MPPs. Anyone else have anything? Yeah, just wondering if anything's coming up, Scott, you wanted to mention.
Just a reminder of the Newstead Fair happening this weekend. And there's Wing Night in Elmwood this Friday. Starting at 5, I believe.
Yeah, the Elmwood Wing Nights 5 to 9 at the Pavilion, always a great thing. And then the Newstead Fall Fair. Excellent. Doug?
Yeah, just like to inform people that on this past Sunday was the traditional Terry Fox Day run, and unfortunately West Grey Durham, as is how it's posted, has lost their organizers. The Edwards family have done it last few years. Previous to that was the Jim and Denise Hutchison family had run it for a number of years. So looking for some new organizers for next year. Hopefully people would still make their donations to the Terry Fox Foundation, which is a very worthwhile cause. And I know some people have already done that. So unfortunately, we didn't have a run this year, but maybe next year. So look forward to that.
Very good. Anyone else have anything? All kinds of stuff. Whether anybody noticed, but yesterday, Councillor Townsend was there, Deputy Mayor Hutchison, 9 o'clock yesterday morning. It's Legion Week, so there's all kinds of things going on at 306 Durham Legion. This, sorry, I said 306, 308, 308 Legion Week at the Legion itself, and we're flying the flag here in recognition of that for the week for the Legion. Yes, and certainly look forward to the Newstead Fall Fair. Friday night, is it the Newstead Market at the brewery as well too? Oh, that was last. Yes, sorry, that was last. Yeah, that was last Friday. Sorry. As you can tell, I was expecting to get there this Friday before I went to Elmwood for wings, and then, yeah, I'm missing it. The Newstead Brewery is still open regardless. You can go down at any time. I think it was well attended. That's it. We have no closed session. No need for closed session. Good. Then we're down to number 18, which is adjournment. All things accomplished on the agenda. We stand adjourned. We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you very much. See you back here planning at 2 o'clock. Correct?